And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sunsail Bob. Here it is, uh, 3rd of April, a few days after Easter. Um, it is, what time is it? Almost 11 a.m. And so I was going on earlier today, and a friend stopped by. And he said, "Oh, just keep going." Ah, just trying to know if I could. Oh, I have to stretch my legs a little bit. I've been sitting in this pony a bit too long. Uh, oh, bah, uh, ah. Sort of energetic moves. Get your body moving, get the world around you moving, get your love moving. Uh, oh, uh, you know, I don't know what you think the world is, but it's um, it's a strange place. It really is. Right? The movie The Matrix, it kind of really said a lot of things. There was a lot of guys and gals on YouTube who spend their life explaining things like Star Trek and Episode 3 and, the movies of The Matrix and everything else. I mean, that's the beauty of this YouTube. I mean, you want to know how to do open heart surgery on yourself in your bathroom? Hey, there's a YouTube for that. Uh, Now, my mortality is coming up quick. I've died 7 times already, so I kind of know what it feels like to die. I've kind of had my spiritual revolution, your review. And the thing I learned from that was you can always do better. Right? Yet, the real deal is that things aren't as bad as they seem to be. Just, I'm going to be quiet for a second here. That's a bird right behind me. And that bird wasn't here a few weeks ago because it was too cold. It's going to get cold again. We're supposed to have some snow and, oh, but, hey, the real deal is that your life is a blessing. Do not kind of go on about how terrible it is because, things can always be worse, and if you go on about how terrible it is, normally it will be worse. But if you're thankful, you know, thankful to God, thankful to Jesus, thankful for everybody around you, right, who helps you out, right, and then you be there for others who need your help, you know, so I I get cans of food from people, and so I put them in little plastic bags, and I'm not going to eat them all, and so I keep a few of those bags in my wherever I go. So when I'm stopped at a corner or a street light, or there's a homeless guy over there, spare changing it, go, yo, come over here, and you know, I give him the bag. Right, it's usually about 6 cans of food, usually some of those protein bar kind of nutty chocolatey things, and other like a bag of dried milk, and that is, dried milk is amazing. I use it for cooking because it makes whatever you're making rich and thick. It's really so my mortality. Soon I won't be here in this form, and that's okay. And God's been pulling pranks on me all week long, especially with my having to deal with the medical model. And I could get angry, I could get pissed off, I could be jumping up and down, but I'm not. Because every time I do something, you know, like I was like irritated the other day with all the because I went to go pick up my orthopedic shoes, which allows me to walk, and the and they had them there. Oh, they would come by and get them, so I came by and get them, and my general practitioner, who knows he's not a bone doctor, he's not a podiatrist, he's not a anything to do with he's just a, general practitioner, but he is my general practitioner. So the insurance company needs him to sign off on it. And he said no, he doesn't need that. Just like I needed some cream that I use on my feet because I have diabetes and I got these sores, and if they get carried away they turn gangrene and they had to cut my feet off. And he said, oh, he doesn't have diabetes. So it's like, really? I've been getting this for the last 5 years from my other doctor. And that doctor got so irritated and upset with the medical world. He just, he started this great nonprofit HMO, which I wired myself into, and I got him to be my doctor. The head guy, you want to be your doctor. And he would take care of me really well. And when he would give me a medicine, I said, hey, this doesn't really fit me. Oh, let's try a different one, right? This other guy, hey, you're going to take what I tell you to take. So, yeah, I was irritated at him. And basically, so I was here grumbling about that on the show, I guess. And I had left my headlights on. So when I went to start the car, the engine was dead. The battery was gone, and engine off and the headlights on for like 2 hours, and that was that. But I'm old. I forget those things. I should have checked the little button, but I didn't. I should keep it on the other one when your car's off, the lights are off, and I didn't because I was irritated coming away from not getting my shoes, and the traffic was ridiculous, and so I put my brights on, and anyway, you see where I'm going with this? Just let it go, right? And be there for others. When you're there for others, everything kind of works out. When you're grateful for what you have, everything works out. When you're, it doesn't work out too good, right? So uh, that's where I'm going with this, you know. And I look at the presidential election, people. If you just look at history, it never, whatever government ever is produced, it may work in the beginning, but I forgot which French philosopher said, power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So you build you know a facility, a institution, and like our government, and of course, it's at a certain point the people who run it will be taking advantage of it, and it was set up in such a way so our founding fathers was very obviously that they didn't trust anybody but themselves. So they weren't worrying about the English coming back, because they were already there. I mean, that was just a bait and switch. Our founding fathers were 100%, Masons, right? You go read Albert Pike. He was the guy instrumental for bringing forth the Civil War, and he couldn't care less about slavery. He was all about the cha-ching and power, right? And the Masonic, and their long game, right? And that's what we're experiencing right now. And this long game is which we're not even at the end of it. No, no. This the long game. It's like 50 to 100 years from now, right? But we're going to have martial law. We're going to have a civil war. We're going to have nuclear war. We're going to have. You think the last pandemic was ooh baby? No, I mean that was like you know a hard flu, right? 7 million people on the planet died, right? Black plague, 18 months, 16 months from beginning it showing up to you know it killed 3/4 of Europeans, right? The Spanish flu, killed in one year, close to 60 million people, right? So no, forget about it. And all the pandemic did was destroy what little shreds of a healthcare system. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a money making insurance entity, and you will find the boat running into the bridge in Baltimore. Who's making the money? It's like Larry, who bought the World Trade Center, right? Like less within a year, the buildings came down. He had he got himself a mortgage. He only had to put $6 million of his own money to buy the World Trade Center. He then went and got a super duper special terrorist insurance policy, and he got 1 point something billion dollars for an attack. Well, both the towers got attacked, so he got his lawyers to say there was two attacks, and the third, he got like three attacks. He got almost $6 billion for that. He made out, right? He made out. So whatever went down there, Larry was a part of, right? And people, oh, you can't keep it, blah 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 blah. No, you're making $6 billion, right? But it doesn't matter because that's what I. You look at Donnie. Donnie, he says what he's going to do, right? And JoJo does what Donnie says he's going to do. He says, "Oh, I'm going to be an environmental president," meaning JoJo, and he passes all these laws, and then he basically signs executive orders so they can go drill up in the super sensitive environmental permafrost of Alaska. Yeah, he's a green president, all right. Cha-ching, cha-ching. So that is kind of what it is, and it's kind of what it's always been. What we just had Easter. Now it's truly amazing. You read the Old Testament, and it says everything about what's going to happen in the New Testament, like for 2,000 years, right? Not only does it say it, it says it in code. Every time they talk about Jesus, all different guys, if you look at what they write, right? Every word, every syllable is divisible. I mean, you count up all the vowels, right? In that little verse, it's you can divide seven into it. Every number of words, you can divide seven into it. It's truly amazing. It's it's in a code. It's not only in a code; it's in a a time thing. There's a guy if you into Bible radio. There's a guy. He has a show called 6640, meaning the 66 books written by 40 guys and gals. People who have a name. Paul, John, blah blah blah. Right. Um, he's got an interesting take. I mean, I listen to Bible radio. 60% is like you're all going to hell unless you do what I tell you to do. Right? That's 60% of Bible radio. But the other 40 is actually kind of thought provoking, interesting, and I like to listen to it. And I like when Jesus walked. There's some really good Bible songs. I mean, rock, jazz, blues, all came from church music, basically. Right? Classical music came from church music. Jazz came from church music. God is in everything. Now, who is God? Is God, like, you know, Donnie would say, "I'm God. Look at me. I'm God." No, I don't think so. What we are when the burning bush showed up um, to Moses, show up, the people would, whoa, they'd see it, back in the day of the Hebrews, they didn't give him a name because if you said God's name, you were dead. When they had Exodus and God gives these real specific blueprints for the house He wants, it's because not everyone could be in physical realm of the most holy of holies, right? So, it's like Vladimir, the guy we're not going to talk about his name, right? And that's what Vladimir is that opposite emotional, psychological essence of what God is, right? He's got just all these great ooh magic powers. Magic is just somebody else's technology, science, And because man, that's why I was never a fan of scholastics because they said, "Oh, I know what I'm talking about. I read it in a history book." No, only pursuit of understanding, not truth, understanding. You'll have to be a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. You need all of those ologies. Take any of the ologies one at a time, they're useless, right? But really, the only thing that's important is what that bird is saying. Oh, so how much juice do we have? Pretty good. I'm waiting here out in the middle of nowhere. This is the only place my phone kind of works. I'm waiting for a doctor who wants me to have open heart surgery, right? So I'm in my mid 70s, pushing 80. Why should I do that when I'm not short of breath? I don't, right? The percentage of um, you know me dying on the is pretty high, right? So my attitude towards operations are, I don't want one unless I really need one. Meaning I'm dead, they revive me. Something's really broke on the inside, and they're gonna go try and fix it, right? So I'm gonna die. I'm dead already. They brought me back. They said we can fix it. If we don't, if we take you out these machines and we don't go in there, you're gonna die. And I say, sure, go ahead, go for it, because I'm pretty much already dead, right? So I'm already dead now. The Walking Dead. But see, I'm dead, right? But I'm here because God said no. I can tell there's issues here. It doesn't really hurt when I walk up two hills to go to the bathroom and then walk down to go over to the man cave and hang out, right? Um, I do that maybe if it's not really raining hard. I do that 5, 10 times a day, and I mean pretty steep hill. The hill behind me, that's steep, right? See, there's a mausoleum up there. So I have to walk up and down something like that hill, um, 10 times a day. And when I do it, I'm like, I don't do that. I'm like, I can feel, you know, but if I just take a few breaths, right? And that's the other thing is breathing. Wake up and breathe, morons. You breathe 1,000 times a minute, right? That's because we're not breathing. We just had to, right? Don't do that too much, otherwise you get a wee and fall over. But just keep breathing. That's the number one thing. Every time I go to sleep, I talk to God, which is prayer. That's what talking to God is, prayer. If you motorize, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be, blah, 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 like when I was a kid, we had to do the rosary, all these Hail Marys, and then every sin but Hail Mary you did in Our Father, right? I mean, there is you get into a drone, right? It's called chanting, right? And so you're breathing a certain way. Yeah, yeah. Hung out in Tibetan monasteries. Yeah, there's all these. They're tools. They aren't the truth. They're tools. Right? The Bible is a tool. It's a tuning fork. You should be reading it. You know, I'd love to see what the Muslims do. I'd love to see Christians to do that. Muslims take 20 minutes or so out of their every day, 5 times a day, put down a prayer cloth, get on the floor, go prostrate to God. They are, the doula to God. Muslims are Christians on steroids. I'd love to see Christians have the faith of a Muslim, right? A lot of Muslim friends, right? I lived in North Africa. I lived in New York City. I lived up there in near Chicago. I've had a lot of. I lived in poor neighborhoods. There are a lot of Muslims in the United States, and so I've always found, and right now I'm surrounded by Christians, right? And so I go to 3 different churches. A Baptist church, Methodist church, and a Catholic church, right? And the Baptists are the strangest but kindest, right? They put up, yeah, they put up with me, or at least accept me. Let's say that. And the Catholics, no, they're like, they are like, ooh, you know. And so they're always like keeping an eye on me because the priest who runs that church, he and I have had many a talk, and so we come from, I went to, I was, Cardinal was a guy who's 3 hats to the Pope. He was my godfather. He was my religious mentor. Little boy, right? He wanted me to be a rocket scientist for the Pope, right? So I got a pretty good education, man, right? And I kept getting, by the middle management, I got murdered in first grade by a Nazi nun, literally a Nazi nun. She had come from Buchenwald, right? The Vatican got her out of town, and she was a specialist. She was called the milkmaid of pain. She would torture people to death by milking their nipples, men specifically. Anyway, and she just knocked my lights out, broke the orbit of this eye, broke my jaw. That's why I speak kind of like, crushed my larynx, broke the little stirrup in my ear so I can't hear out of that ear. I mean, I could like go on and on and on all every day in every way about that event. So I talk about it just story. I don't say it as And so, it took me 2 years to get over that. And 18 months of that 2 years, I stayed at a sanctuary. my my cardinal put me there to keep me safe from the Jesuits and the Franciscans. And those guys, they are academics. That's what they're not scholars. Whereas the Marinol, who took me in, and so I learned Greek and Latin there. I learned how to read. I learned how to. This I can't really see, but it sees. It got crushed to a point where all its focal points are in different places. So I see different frequencies through that eye. They broke the little stirrup in his ear, so I hear like things way far away that most people can't hear. I can hear them. You know? So if someone's walking in that woods, I can hear them. But it's like the bird's like on my shoulder, right? And because my larynx got crushed, I breathe in a different way than most people. I speak in a different way. I use my larynx differently. Um, After everything kind of got healed up, I had a serious stutter. I still do. They taught me how to what became the Sylvan mind control, right? And what was Evelyn Wood's speed reading course and memory course. They taught me those things. And so whenever I speak, I get all my thoughts together through prayer. I kind of put it on the tape recorder in my eniglia, and I just play it out. That's why I'm a pretty good actor, because I don't worry about remembering it really. I don't memorize anything. It's all there. I can access whatever I read or see or anything. I can access it, right? And so can you, but you don't. You limit yourself, right? And that's what Dreamy Dreamland here is to assist. It's my attempt to help you guys out so you can, do better, right? So, so anyway, you know, um, I care about you guys. This is a chat. This why I do a chat. Instead of just doing a blog, I do a chat. So you can comment, but sometimes you do. You know, sometimes you do pretty good. And I have an email, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Dude awake 42 at Gmail. Right. So I have PayPal. A lot of people used to, not a lot. I would get about $100 a month. That was kind of nice. First couple of years, but I've been doing this now almost 7 years. You know? And I try to do a show that's not about me. That's about you. So it's a little tough to do a show about you when you don't aren't really here. I mean, you are here. I can feel you here, right? And part of you know the powers that be allow me to do this, right? They could definitely knock me off physically or take me off, but they don't block anything. It's just they keep me down on the farm, which is fine. Ooh, baby. Ugh. I haven't really eaten much because I don't have any money. I don't have food. And the state is saying that $70 is too much food stamps for me. And so I have to, just like I'm waiting for somebody to call about my health care. And, this is the only place that my cell phone works out here. Out in the man cave, it's like a miracle if it works. But boy, the temperature is dropping pretty quick. So probably have snow. Um, how much juice do we have left here? Not in the red line yet. It's not good for me to let this thing, crash. But anyway, and I was gonna play a whole bunch of stuff from YouTube of this person blabbing about, Donnie or this person blabbing about, but JoJo is 100% responsible for all the deaths in the Gaza Strip. Nah, it's the people because they don't know how to play the game. They say from the river to the sea. Well, that's a Zionist trope. Not that it's meaning back in the 1890s, the first people to start saying that were the Zionists, right? And then and they were talking, well, maybe we'll go to Africa, find some place in Africa to start our country. Maybe we'll go to South America. But Mr. Rothschild said, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Let's go back home, Middle East, where all that oil is going to be, right?" And that's why we got the Balfour Declaration. England and France did that, and Mr. Rothschild, who was the exchequer of the English Empire, made that happen. Check it out, kids. You know, and I, spent a good 15 years in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, with the Hasidim and the Lubavitcher, right? And my landlord was the head rabbi, Ratner, right? So he got me into his Lubavitcher, to study the Torah, the scroll, right? And I couldn't sing, so he wanted me. He said, "Well, you might make a good cantor. You got a good voice," and I couldn't sing. But he was constantly hooking me up with women because he wanted to expand the genetic pool of the Hasidim and Lubavitcher. Because if you ever look at a group of male Hasidim, they look like white worms. They got big Coke glass. Whereas the women are like, oh, they're like Xena, the warrior princess, right? So he's always hooking up with me with these girls. And if you went down Bedford Avenue, which was one side Hispanic, the other side Hasidic. Um, would see these Hasidic women with their hair, well, they wore labuchkas, but it was just like the Muslim women having to wear the hijab, and they would have these you know, perambulators, things that you put the baby in and walk behind, and not just one baby, not just two babies. 10 babies, this thing that's longer than a car. And she'd be pushing it with all these kids, and there'd be, you know, Xena, red hair, another Xena, then, boy with Coke bottle glasses, looks like a worm, barely alive, and another Xena, and then and then a few more wormy boys, and then there'd be a guy brown skinned, you know, Rico, but he was, and he'd have his little yarmulke on, and it was pretty obvious that the girls were getting stripped by the help, right? Just like it's pretty obvious on all the slave plantations. Good old Thomas Jefferson, basically propagated most of Virginia's black people, and they're really good looking when you take two races and put them together. They're like the best of both worlds, right? That's like me. I'm an African American that's melanin challenged. Ah. So standing up, I'm getting a little, I can feel, there is, I've had this issue with my heart since I was born, you know. So I'm contemplating whether, if they make it easy for me, maybe I'll do it. Right? But they're saying they want me to go, out of state or something. They said, buddy, I don't even have a car. How am I going to get there? I mean, I can't take this pony because this sucker can't, I can't drive it anymore. First of all, I don't always have it. Second of all, I really can't drive any further than 40 miles from here because if it breaks down, my buddy who owns it, he has to be able to come and get me, right? That's kind of the thing we've had. So that's kind of the story. So the real story is don't worry about anything. I mean, I'm standing here talking to you because, A, I wanted to stretch my muscles. I've been sitting around too long. And really, it's dropped about 10 degrees in the last 15 minutes. And I wanted to show you that a dead guy, the one I started out was The Walking Dead want too much, They're always asking for stuff. That's you can tell a Walking Dead person when they're not satisfied, I'm pretty satisfied with the life I've had. I've been blessed. I mean, I've had traveled the world, had the most amazing women in my life, most amazing friends, did the most amazing things, you know. And what was great about it was that I didn't have to do it all by myself. It's not like I had to be what I was, like, oh, 10 years ago in Roanoke. Roanoke's a very racist. Virginia is probably the most racist state. Like when Brown came down, Supreme Court said, you had to start integrating schools. You know what the state of Virginia did? They closed all the public schools. We're out of the public school business. Then they sold all the buildings and facilities that were state owned, that were paid for by taxpayers, who then started private schools. And because they were private schools, they didn't have to um, do what the federal government said. They could teach anything religious they wanted. They could do anything they freaking wanted, and they could say no black people, no anybody but us white. Right? And that's kind of what the school systems where they get um, shits, money for the state to run their own little school. And that's what homeless schools are. I mean, it used to be big deal teaching kids at home. Now you don't even have to tell the state you're doing it. You don't have to send a kid anyway. That's what I'm saying. It's that things are like same as they ever were. They're just more obvious, right? And that's a good thing, guys, because by having basically a mirrored image of Joe, and Donnie. They have the same guy. You put them like they're the same guy. They're doing the same things. They're bringing. They're, what's this present Congress the last 2 years has only passed 47 laws. I mean, the 2 years, 47 laws. Period. That's it. Right. The average of even depending on Democrat, Republican, the average of the 200 years of us having a whoopee thing legislature, we averagely, a season, every business cycle is a season of Congress, and it runs around our budget. And average number of laws in that 1 year period of the 4 years of a administration is somewhere between 500 3,000 laws passed. And this Republican mega Congress for the last 2 years has only passed 47 laws. I mean, that's please come on. It's a joke. It makes me, you so I have nothing. I'm about to die. What can anyone do to me, right? And so I've told this story now. In September, I went in to get, my doctor. Oh, you have a heart murmur. I said, yeah, I've always had it. Well, you need to, okay. And that was my good doctor, right? He set me up with all these tests I was supposed to take. And I show up and I go through it and they sign me in and I take all the paperwork. I don't let them keep it. All the stuff that my doctor has, it's like a prescription, right? When you get a test, it's like a prescription, right? So I take that and all the other information that he's written down. And all the guy did was put it in his little reader and put it in the computer, right? They put a little bracelet on me with a universal product code. And that soon everyone's going to have one of those, like either on their forehead, I would say on their forehead, because that's easily read. And if let's say you put a universal product code on your wrist, you could cut your hand off, right? But so other friends of mine said, well, that's all hat, they already have facial recognition, and that will be your really, basically your ID. You won't have a driver's license or a passport, your face, because you're gonna have plastic surgery to make you look different, but your bone structure, that's the same. That's what facial recognition really kind of looks at, because it's all an algorithm. They just don't stop at your skin. So let's keep looking through the time. And we're doing okay. I got another 10, 15 minutes. What time is it? Is it not noon yet? So anyway, um, uh, as you can see, people wrote the book Brave New World, 1984, other dystopian novels and stories and movies, and that's getting you ready to be able to accept it. That's pre-programming, right? The any of you ladies out there back when Roe was voted in the 70s, um, that's when I was a lesbian. They basically, all my sisters said, "Oh, look, have a we have a rights club." I said, "Don't. Rights are legal tender, right? But when you're given these things, they can be taken away, and that's what I said. So the Supreme Court said, Roe, it's the law of the land. It's not the law of the land. It's just until the Supreme Court takes it away. So 50 years later, they took it away. I don't want to say I told you so, because I said we have to get, you know, women's rights legislate just like the 14th Amendment. We need an amendment to the Constitution that says women have control over their body. State legislatures can't tell them what to do with their body, and that goes for everybody else. Once blacks got rights, then women want rights, and then you know um, then lesbians wanted rights, and then gay people wanted rights, and change it. And I have to freaking break. Everyone who ever comes visit me without invitation, they come and visit me. Especially if they came, I go to bed. As soon as it gets dark, I go to sleep. Sun comes up, I wake up. I live in a holler, so the sun doesn't really hit me until around 10, 11 o'clock. So I don't care. But when people come and see me, um, without being invited or I know they're showing up, and they hit me at that time, I'm usually naked in bed, right? So yesterday morning, somebody came to see me. Like the police or somebody, not the police, but since I'm having so much medical stuff, um, not even the so it's an entity for old folk, right? That's a lot of old folks that live here. So they come and check on you. It's not like the cops are coming to get you. But anyway, someone started like pounding on my door. So I just got out of bed totally freaking naked and walked up, opened up the door. It was a guy. And he like nearly shit a brick. You're naked. I said, yeah, I was born that way. He goes, what are you doing? I said, you woke me up. It's 11 in the morning. I said, so I'm asleep. Well, put something on. So I just kind of put this on, and it kind of covered my junk, but just by that much. And he was so frigging uncomfortable, and he wanted to see if I was poor, you know. And so he saw that I was poor, And so I'm supposed to go on Zoom next week because they took all of social services out of the counties. Everything's in the state. I mean, you can tell they're getting rid of whatever they even existed. So, and that's across the world. These wars that are going on in 80 places. And this whole year, more than 1 million people have died. The wars ain't just Ukraine and the Strip. They're all over Africa, Asia. They're everywhere. What India is doing, what's China, what we're doing, we're killing people. Right? I mean, we're killing people by giving Israel the weapons to do it. I mean, that's pretty much what we do. We give everyone weapons, right? Look what Saudi Arabia did to the Houthis, and the Houthis didn't get knocked down at all. They were bombed for almost 10 years. Didn't even kill a lot of them, but so until love is the commodity, until kindness is the thing that you want to give. I mean, why do I give myself and everything I have to other people? Because it makes me happy. And it's not a transactional thing. Like the homeless guy, I gave a bag of canned food and candy bars and stuff to. I'll never see him again, you know. But I was at that light. I said, "Yo, come over here." Came over. I handed him this bag. He went over to where he was sitting. He kind of opened up and he started taking it out. And everyone he looked, he smiled. He smiled more. When he found the candy bars, he smiled even more. And I had back in the day, I would, find something interesting. I'd buy a case of it. And so there were these Swedish can openers, like fit in your wallet. They're this little thing. You open it up like that, and you put it next to can, and you just do this, right? But it's like looks like a penny, and it folds and unfolds. Has the thing that and it has the little thing your fingers can do this, and then you just go around it, and it opens up amazingly. Every bag, if the cans don't have the pop tops, I throw in one of those things. And this guy, and when he found that can opener, he almost started to cry. That was better. That was the best thing that day, right? And that's why I have those bags there because I hand them out anytime I see anybody. I stop at a corner, stop sign, whatever, and there's somebody doing spare change. I say, "Yeah," come. And they got a sign, you know, "Oh, well, please, I'm hungry." I give them a bag of food. So that's what rolls my dice. Why I'm doing this show. It's not to like and aggrandize me. No, it's to help you guys out. That's why it'd be nice if somebody would say something. But almost, um, and you guys go back and watch this. I'm like your wallpaper, right? So anyway, let's try something. Let's see what this does. See if Jimmy Dore goes onto the show. Well, do you get any of that? You know, so that's what your tax dollars are doing. But not just there, all across Africa, all in Asia. Our best buddies in India doing a good job. Our friends and allies in Europe making sure lots of people are dead and a lot of beautiful places blown up. So, you know, that was an interesting. I'll have to go back and see if that worked. I will continue doing that instead of me taking the phone and putting it in front of the lens. So, yeah, I have no idea what the frack I'm doing. I have no idea how to do any of this or what I'm doing. Hey, there's one of you there. Is that you AI or is that a human being? I'm standing out here in the deep green. Hasn't quite gone green yet. Soon it will. But that's Frankenstein's house up there. It's a big rich guy. He built a house up there. And when I chopped all my trees down so they wouldn't hit me, um, he first screamed at me for cutting all the trees down, and then he realized he should do this, cut at least a few down. And there was one tree that was kind of leaning towards his house, and you know, he came to, so who's the guy who took all the trees down? And I gave him my arbiter, and or whatever you call a tree guy, and so this is tree that was kind of right by his house, and so the guy said, "Oh yeah, I can take that down." And it'll cost $1,000. What are you talking about? $1,000? And he said, yeah, it's a crappy tree. It's not worth anything. Because see, the guy who took my trees down, all the trees in there were worth something. They were maple and birch, and so he actually paid me to take all my trees down and get rid of them, take them away. He took everything away. Right? He didn't just burn them there. He just took everything away. He's a righteous guy. So he says, well, this is I'm going to bring in a whole bunch of equipment and go up there and bucket trucks and take it down from the top all the way out, right? That way your house is safe. And he goes, well, maybe I'll have to see. So he goes down to uh, the meth house and said, hey, anybody got a chainsaw? I need a tree taken down. And so this guy goes, yeah, $50. I'll be there right away. And so, instead of grabbing the guy and taking him up there, it was like maybe 11 in the morning. The guy shows up around 4 when the sun's going down. And he goes, "This is he goes, this, and he goes, give me the $50. All right, cut the tree down. No, $50. So I walk away. $50 in his pocket. Right? Tree. Right onto the house. Just right. And so he calls his insurance company. The guy's heard about it. He goes, your insurance policy won't cover this. What are you talking about? Right. He said, well, you went to an arbiter, right? Who is licensed and bonded and insured, and you said it was too expensive. You then went down to the meth house and got Larry, and you gave him $50, and he cut that tree, and it fell on your house. Good luck with that. That house is no one's been in it for that was probably 10 years ago. And there's two other houses around here where the rich people came in. And the same thing happened. Not Larry cutting it down, and they just took a few trees out to keep all the trees like this, but really big ones. And but they're dying. Right, all the big ones are. There's a picture of it. Well, if you can, this whole hill has all these big trees that fell down, just like the one that fell on that house. And it's pretty obvious. These smaller trees, these are poplar. They're like, you know, weeds. They're shooting up, right? So anyway, and this is a very rocky, mountainous kind of. This is Sawtooth Mountain. It's not like lumpy Blue Ridge Mountains where the tree things go down deep and can hold themselves up. Here, if you look at the, it's all the biome is like on top of the forest rather than in the forest. Anyway, but that's why I live here because I love the trees. Love me, and I'll probably end up there. But if I were to ever having kind of a heart attack, I kind of would walk out into the woods and then just keel over there, and then let nature take its way. Right? So now the sun's coming out. Now, if this really gets sunny, then we might have a storm because it's really cold. There's a lot of moisture in the air. The sun heats it up. We could have issues, but not really. Not that I think. Anyway, how's the juice doing? In the red zone yet? Not quite. Well, I'm going to leave unless there's one of you there. Ask a question. Come on, let's have a conversation. Ooh, the sun's coming out. See, the sun comes out. It was getting a little nippy. It was probably in the 40s and very damp. Now the sun comes out. It's like toast. Yum 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 yum. Back in the 70s when I was in New Mexico, I built a number of these things called earth houses. And if you have a backhoe and a bunch of tires, not a problem. So you dig out the side of a hill, you put a line of big tires. I mean, big tires, like tractor tires, right? And then you pull dirt into the hole, right? And smooth it off, and then put another line of tires, another line of tires, until you have this big tall wall. And just like the big chapels in Europe, you can build domes, very easily by just tire, 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 and keeping them all set until you put them all together, holding themselves up, right? Then you cover it in dirt, and then you find a guy who knows how to spray that foam insulation, and it paints it out, and then you can, once it gets hard, you and then you put a plastery kind of material, make it smooth, look really beautiful. And I built a lot of those in New Mexico. Well, a lot, 12, and lots of other alternatives. But they were out in the middle of the desert, no electricity, no nothing, no water. Um, Basically, what we did was we made the same kind of thing, cisterns, big ones, like 2,000-gallon cisterns, right? And we put it kind of above thing, and then we do the same tire thing and make the cistern out of tire and sand, and then we'd spray the inside with that foam material. What was a different consistency, like harder, and not very porous at all. And then we would cover it with another really even harder, almost food grade plastic. Um, and then we it rains in the desert, and usually it rains really hard. So you get a big, you know, gully washer, as they call them, and it would fill that 1,000 gallon thing up in like 15 minutes, and then you'd have 1,000 gallon for a year, right? And so we had water, we had septic, we heat from the geothermal of the building being underground and covered by dirt, and having the whole top of it open up so the sun could come in. And we had we went out to junkyards and got radiators from cars and trucks, and we kind of brazed them together so water would be in them, right? And we had mirrors that the sun would focus right on those radiators. And we had and we place them again. We cut them into the dirt. The back would be set into the dirt, and foam would be sprayed, so they'd be insulated. And the front facing the mirrors, which were the sun was behind them. The mirrors were here. The sun would hit that and be focused on those radiators. We get boiling water. Sometimes we would have to have the mirrors move so it wouldn't get those things hot. So we'd have hot water, we'd have heat in radiators. We got baseboard heaters that we put in the sink, plus the sun coming in. And we had some photovoltaics and batteries for electricity. And that was in 1972. And we found these windjammers, these great, Dust Bowl farm. And we fixed them. We had about 10 of them, and they were very, very nice. And they had a diameter of maybe 5 feet. And we got these rods of fiberglass that we stuck them on. So we were doing pretty freaking good. And then when we really got hot to trot, there is out there near Santa Fe. I was working for a power company, and we were putting up new transmission lines and new distributions. Those kind of Tonka toy things you see when you drive by and the big power lines are going as transformers. We were doing that. And when you do that, you have to run down loose voltage, meaning there's other lines all over the place from 1920s, 30s, and some of them still are alive because they're being fed from run it down to ground, right? And so when we did that, we found this one town. We were out there in the middle of nowhere, and we found a city that had been a silver town, and it had a population of over 100,000, and they hit it big, so it was super fancy. It's Gilded Age kind of architecture, and it's out in the middle of the desert, so it was still there. Everyone left after they ran out of silver. They went to the gold rush in California, and it starts with an M. And me and these Mexican guys. I mean, they were literally Mexicans, and they were from a utility company in Mexico, and these guys were engineers. They were smarter, smart. And I knew a little habla español, and they knew a little English, and we were the best of buddies. We had the best of times, and I would be the white guy who would be with them. So when authorities would come by, I could say, no, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. See you later, bye. Right. And so, like when Mexico City had its big earthquake, those guys called, they were running the utility company in the city. They got a hold of me and said, hey, come on down and help us with this, which I did. That's how I got to see Mexico City. And saw a city of like the most populated city on the world, be flattened, and it didn't knock the people down at all. People were still had they went into their crushed businesses. They pulled out what they could, and they were selling it on the street. There were people making, tacos and you name it on the side of the street. People were helping it, It was amazing. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. Millions of people, and there was no riots. There was no chaos. There was none of the above. No fear. Everybody was watching out for each other. But that little city we found in the middle of New Mexico near Santa Fe, it's now a big art town, right? But me and 8 Hispanic guys found it, right? And then my buddies in Albuquerque, I said, "Hey, come on out and let's have some fun out here," right? And the boys and girls who did that later on made Burning Man. See, this is the kind of life I've had, right? And I've got photos of everything because these stories. Oh, you didn't do that. I got photos of everything. And but they're also those photos are also nice. I sit in the chair and I look at what that time was and what this time is. So that's kind of it. So how are we doing for time? Let's see. It's 11:55, and there's 14% left. I think I'm gonna go now. So our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our trespasses, and forgive us our trespasses. All I've had was a bottle of seltzer today. So you stay well. I love you guys. I don't think I will. Oh, there's a woodpecker. Okay. Okay.